Let me ask you something. When was the last time you were completely, utterly wrong about yourself? Not about a fact, not about a date or a name, but about who you are, about what kind of person you are deep down. Maybe you thought you were patient until you snapped at someone you loved. Maybe you thought you were honest until you told a lie so smoothly it surprised even you. Maybe you thought you were over someone until you saw their name light up your phone and your heart did something embarrassing. We walk around every day carrying this detailed, confident picture of ourselves, and that picture is mostly fiction. Today, we are going to talk about why our brains lies to us about who we are and what it says about every human being who has ever lived. Like, this is the story of the stranger in your mirror. In 1977, two psychologists named Richard Nisbett and Timothy Wilson published a paper that quietly shook the foundation of psychology. They had been running experiments, simple ones, that show people a choice of products or ask them to react to a word and then ask the participants, why did you do that or why did you choose that? And the answers people gave were confident, detailed, but totally wrong. In one study, participants chose which pair of identical stockings they preferred. They gave elaborate reasons that this pair feels softer, the texture was better, the quality just seemed higher. But in reality, the stockings were identical. The participants had no idea what actually drove their choices. Probably the order they saw them in, but their brain invented a story, a perfect, logical, totally fabricated story. Nisbet and Wilson called this introspection illusion. The idea that we look inward when we try to understand our own motivations, we are not actually accessing our real mental process. We are just constructing a narrative after the fact. Think about for a moment every time you have ever explained yourself, every time you said, I did it because, or I feel this way because your brain may be doing something it's extraordinary good at making that is making things up. And the terrifying part, it's not lying to you, it genuinely believes the story it's telling. This is called narrative self. Psychologists and neuroscientists now widely agree that self, that thing you experience as you, is not fixed identity buried somewhere in your skull. It's a story your brain tells constantly in real time, stitching together fragments of memory, emotions, and sensations into something that feels coherent. See, you're not reading your life, you're writing it and then reading what you wrote and believing every word. This is what happens. But one of the most disturbing windows into this came from the work of neurologist Michael Gazzaniga in 1960s and 70s. He was working with the split brain patients, people who had connections between their brains, two hemispheres that was surgically cut, usually to treat severe epilepsy. And here's what he discovered. When he shot an image to only to the right hemisphere of the patient's brain, the that side can't speak, and asked the patient to do something based on that image. The left hemisphere, the verbal side, had absolutely no idea what was happening. But when asked to explain their own behavior driven by information they literally did not have access to, and the left hemisphere didn't say, I don't know. It invented a reason instantly, confidently, that was completely wrong. Michael called this the interpreter, the part of the left hemisphere that is always constructing a story to explain what the self is doing. Even in people with split brains, even the two half of the brain were essentially strangers to each other. But the interpreter doesn't turn off. It doesn't say I lack data. It says here's the data and then generates it. This is what your brain does every waking second of your life. Now, here's where things get personal. Have you ever been in an argument and mid fight you couldn't actually remember how it started, but you were completely sure the other person was wrong? Have you ever told a story about your past and years later realized the story had changed, details shifted, and emotion simplified? Your own role was rewritten. Like, have you ever met someone and had an immediate powerful feeling about them, and then later learned the fact that made that feeling seem odd? That's the interpreter. working every time, protecting the narrative. And also, there's a concept in psychology called motivated reasoning, and it's one of the most important ideas for understanding human behavior. It goes like we don't think our way to a conclusion, we feel our way, and then we think to justify. Like our emotional system makes a call, and our rational mind, the magnificent language using logic building system we are so proud of, becomes a lawyer for the verdict that's already been reached. Jonathan Haidt, the social psychologist, put it beautifully. He said the rational mind is not judge. It's a press secretary. Its job is to explain and defend whatever the gut has already decided. This is why the smart people believe demonstrably false things. Kind people can be cruel in certain context, and honest people can deceive themselves without a flicker of discomfort. And why you reading this right now almost certainly believes that things about yourself that aren't quite true. But here's the part, I want you to really sit with this. Like, this isn't a flaw, it's almost a certainty, a feature. Think about what it would actually be like to have a perfect, unflinching self-knowledge, to see petty motivation, every moment of cowardice, like every small selfishness, every gap between who you say you are and who you actually are in practice. See, most of us would be crushed by it. The serving bias, the tendency to see yourself slightly more positively than reality warrants, is correlated with the better mental health, more resilience, and higher motivation. Like we are, in real sense, designed to be someone deluded about ourselves because the alternative might be unbearable. So, who is the stranger in your mirror? It's a version of you that exists in your blind spot, the one other people sometimes see more clearly than you do, the one who shows up in the moment of pressure when the scripts run out and something lower takes over. There's a phrase in psychology, character is what you do when no one is looking. But I'd push that further. Character is what you do when you stop narrating yourself. Carl Jung had a concept he called the shadow, not evil, not darkness, like in the melodramatic sense, just the part of yourself you have pushed out of your conscious story because they don't fit the character you decided to be. And Jung said a century of psychology has agreed that those shadows part don't disappear when you deny them. They go underground. They shape your choices from below. They project outward onto other people the things that infuriate you most about others. Like Jung would say, look there first. The qualities can't stand often, uncomfortably often, are ones you haven't made peace within yourself. See, this isn't about guilt. It's not about shame. It's something much more interesting. Curiosity. What if the stranger in the mirror, the version of you that doesn't fit in the story of yours, is actually more fully you, the character you have, than the character you have been performing? So I'm not going to give you a 5 step guide to knowing yourself better because honestly that would be a little ironic. But here's what the research and I'd argue wisdom point towards. Like first, get suspicious of the certainty, especially certainty about yourself. When you are sure you know why you did something, that's exactly the moment to pause. Second, listen to the people who know you longest, not to obey them. There's a difference between listening and obeying, but because they have been watching your patterns longer than you have, the things multiple people have said about you over and over, like worth holding gently. Third, notice what you defend. The part of your self image you protect fiercely, the ones you'd be more upset to have challenged, those are usually where the most interesting truth lives. The Delphic oracle said, know thyself. For thousands of years, that's been held up against highest human endeavor. But maybe the more honest version would be the version that matches science is thus suspect thyself gently, constantly, with curiosity, and the most important thing, instead of fear. Because the stranger in your mind isn't the enemy to be defeated, it's the rest of you who's waiting to be met. So make peace with it.